this radio station. Its programs and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
I don't know if you know it, but you're back with David Mackey's Shiny Side Out on Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported talk radio internet. So push the donate button or find any of the other ways to donate. There's more than just a button. You can scan a QR code, for instance. There's a whole bunch of ways. Go to freedomslips.com. No, revolution.radio. That's the one you go to. Go there. That's where the archives are, and they're free. That's where the merch is, but it's not free. That's where the chat room is, and you can go there and you can talk to us while we're on air, and it's fantastic. Do that. Did you know all the artwork was made by another host of the station, a mad painter, and his art is awesome. Do get yourself something collectible. I shouldn't say collectible. I'm not sure they're rare, but they're probably rare if not very many people are buying them. And there you go. You got a point in history, I suppose, in which you can entertain yourself. And Mackie and I, we have our own. We have our own merch store, and you can get that through shinysideout.net. Just click through and have a look.
Millions.
Yeah, we want to sell something. So can you help us out? That'd be great. Go there and buy yourself. The big 20-ounce coffee mug is the best of the things that's personally, because I've got a 1 or 2 and I've gifted a few to my friends. So yeah, do that and let us know that you're listening. That'd be fantastic. We're halfway through. You can't believe this. We're halfway through show number 618.
8, 10, and 600.
And we're talking about, might be the last show in the cycle, we're talking about the hypothesis and the epiphany, and this is part 19. So there's an 18 hours to get to here. It's a very large piece that we're working with here. And we are, and I'm going to hand it to Mackie when I give him the title. So if you want to do some history on what we've spoken about so far, but the next thing we're going to talk about is the spinal cord breathing. The
ultimate practice.
Yeah, that's right. The ultimate practice for spiritual activation and awakening. Mackie.
And look, because like Dave said, for the last 18 or so hours, we've discussed our insights, our predictions, which came true, which surprised no one more than us, I can tell you. The connections that were established across different fields of research, the importance of every aspect of what we like to call the supernatural, which I like to term just the natural, which we don't understand, because once you call something paranormal, supernatural, or something like that, you exclude it from your natural experience, which is wrong. Mm-hmm. Because our life is comprised of all of these things, including the spiritual, and a lot of people they switch off when you say that, but we're not just flesh robots, right? I mean, look, if you think we're flesh robots, then you shouldn't listen to the Shiny Side Out. It has nothing for you. It really doesn't. If you believe there's more to life than just chemistry, biology, and falling down in the dark, which is what we like to call gravity, then you're better off just watching reality TV shows and Elon Musk ex Twitter feeds. It is really critical, I think, to realize that there's more to us than our parts. So in this case, our sum total is in fact greater than our parts. We are more than the individual components of which we are comprised. And I think only a small fraction of what we actually are is here. We discussed this as part of the show cycle. You can go back to that if you want. the multi-dimensionality of our existence, and it's borne out by science these days. We know that scientists are now postulating that our brain is a quantum structure. Our brain is a quantum structure, not binary. It's not, I mean, it seems to be operating in quantum mechanical terms, which is really interesting, right? It also seems to be operating in higher dimensions than our, 11. Some scientists believe our brain operates in 11 dimensions, which is many more than we operate in our waking life, which could explain the strangeness of dreams at times, I guess. But this separation between the natural world and the spiritual world, right? The paranormal, the supernatural. That's really prevalent in Western culture. It's not really a thing in traditional other cultures. And I don't want to say Eastern, because this goes the same for the First Nations tribes of the Americas. Africa, same. Certainly in the East and Asia and so forth, right? So this is not East versus West. This is really modern Western culture, modern Western technocratic culture versus everybody else, more or less. Where spirituality was part of life. It's just part. I mean, no one would question it. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Of course, there's more to you than you can see. Of course, we know that, right? And then you look at these amazing and extreme rituals that people have engaged in when it came to death and preparation for death and trying to explore other realms. And we do know that the brain functions of these, for example, Buddhist monks are different to ours, or when I say ours, to people that don't practice meditation. We know this. People have always revered the pineal gland. Always. And the Egyptians, now this is something I recently learned, in fact, when we discussed it here as well. Yes, they pulled the brain out through the nose, but they preserved the pineal gland specially.
That's right.
Yeah. So yes, the brain, who cares about the brain, and the other organs were preserved, but the pineal gland was preserved by the Egyptians. Now this is a gland that's tiny. It's a tiny little gland. And if you're meshing up the brain, I reckon it could easily get lost.
And what's the
right?
point, right?
Right. So there are these hidden messages that seem to exist throughout our world as to what this is all really about. Okay, and hidden because I think knowing this or pursuing this knowledge was met with, I want to say, deadly force in the past, and it might still be if it were openly practiced. So a lot of the mystery schools, a lot of the secret brotherhoods, sisterhoods, etc., they don't really like to flaunt that knowledge because it leads to, falling out of windows, which is in no one's interest, right? So it's really hard to preserve ancient knowledge, but I think some organizations, you call them that if you want, have been successful in doing it. They have been successful in preserving this knowledge. Against the day, it should be made known. And in one of those, I was privy to some time ago, and their tenet was that now we need to widen the net of people that knows this stuff. This is the time when they need to know. Because prior to I guess now or nowish, it was only from I guess let's call it master to student. That's how the knowledge was transmitted from master to student. No one else. No one else. Now that knowledge is more widely disseminated. Well, not to everybody, but more widely than in the olden times, right? Because maybe this is the time when it needs to come out there. And you look at the practices of the native peoples, and again, it still blows me away that the Aboriginals had the Indigenous Australians had this ceremony at Uluru in 2020. The same time we thought the awareness cascade might happen, and in fact, SARS-CoV-2 happened, which is something we said might happen. In fact, I don't know if you recall this, But we always said, if you ask me, biological, bang for buck.
That's
biological
right.
is the way to go.
That's
right?
the exact phrase. Mm-hmm.
Right. Forget nuclear, forget chemical. Right. Biological. That's the way. And it's you don't have to even kill all that many people. You just have to instill fear. So fear is one. Right. Fear is the mind killer. But the other one, which is worse, is uncertainty. So fear triggers usually two responses. Okay, two. But there's a third response it can also trigger. Fear triggers fight or flight. So either you stand your ground or you fight. But your higher brain functions usually shut down unless you train for these situations. The third option that some organisms choose is play dead. It's not fight, it's not flight, it's just play dead.
Or if you're a goat, you just freeze.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, freeze. Right, so there are certain options open to you, right?
Statue mode.
Fear,
Initiate. Wonder twin powers activate. Statue mode.
that's it. Yeah, I am not frozen. But fear really does shut down your higher brain functions. There have been studies done. It's astounding. You really. I'm talking about real fear. Fear for your life, right? Where your knees turn to jelly and you want to drop your guts and your bladder relieves itself. That kind of fear, right? Existential fear, shuts down everything but the survival instinct. So it is truly a mind killer. Controlling that is one of the triumphs that we can achieve as human beings. We can't control it if you train yourself. But the other one, which is a lot more insidious, is uncertainty. Uncertainty. With fear, you have a fairly good idea of what's going on, right? You're afraid of something, and there might be a good reason you're afraid of it. Maybe not, but at least there's something to be afraid of, right? So you can formulate an action, a plan of attack, whatever you're going to do. You can run away, you can fight it, you might freeze, play dead, whatever it might be. But with uncertainty, what do? You don't know. In my mind, that's a lot more crippling than fear. Because uncertainty, you might, even if you see options open to you, you don't know, which one is the right one. It shuts you down even more than fear. You go, whoa, I don't know. Is there anything to fear in the first place? I don't know. I don't know, but I know I don't feel right. Something's not right. No, I don't know what's going on. And that's where we were with SARS-CoV-2. The messages that came out couldn't have been choreographed better. Don't wear a mask. Oh, you could wear a mask. Oh, if you don't wear a mask, we'll throw you in jail. What? Oh, don't congregate. Oh, you can go to church, but you can't sing. You can go to church, but you can't sing. I mean, what?
But then you weren't. But at the same time, even when they could sing, you couldn't go to a nightclub and dance.
I know. I mean, it's look.
I love the leader, Mickey.
Sorry.
I love the
leader. We've all caught up in it. I get it. Me too. But when you look back on it, right? I applaud all the ones that kept their cool, essentially. I mean, honestly, I kept my cool, but there's certain things I had to do, which I preferred not to have done, but I had to do them for various reasons. Mm-hmm. And I know Dave's in the same position. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I do applaud people that made the hard choices and didn't do certain things that they were asked to do. And look, everybody knows what I'm talking about here, right? So, because I don't want this just to be letting on the dung heap of
YouTube
deleted
videos.
shows.
Yeah, that's right.
YouTube. So we were witnessing. See, we have been pounded now, and I mean globally. We've been pounded for a good 30 years. We've been pounded and pounded. The pounding became more intense obviously in 2001. That's when it became really intense, right? In September, it became really intense. And we in order to feel safe, we just gave a lot of stuff away. We just signed it out over here. Take this and take that, and no, this is fine. No, we should do this to be safe. To be safe. So yeah, we want to be safe. Let's be afraid. And then you keep pounding, and more things happen, right? And these military campaigns, they don't go anywhere. In 20 years, we're 20 years in the country. 20 years we occupy this country, and we made no difference. I'm talking about the West now. We made no difference to this country. It was worse when we left. It was worse. Okay, in fact, it was worse because we gave people hope for 20 years. Right? And then we pulled out, and then it was overnight, within hours, it flip-flopped back, right? So, and it yet more pounding. People, ex-soldiers, came home sick from various engagements, right? In the early 90s, then all the way through to the noughties as well. We don't know what was wrong with them. It was called syndrome, Gulf War syndrome. What is it?
That's
don't know. Right? Morgelson's disease. And now we got long COVID. Again, what is it? I don't know. Uncertainty. I don't know. So you can see the game that's being played here, and then the economy. Oh yeah, no, you can't do this and you can't do that, and we got to have restrictions, and it's harder now to do things. You can't afford this, you can't afford that. I mean, it was the height of absurdity when our new Reserve Bank governor, I forget her name, said, "Oh, you shouldn't go to the hairdressers." That's the problem. People go to hairdressers too much. What?
And then wasn't she found to have gone there without wearing a mask?
Oh, mate. She may as well have been. I don't take these people serious anymore, Dave.
I don't know. I remember there was maybe a female politician or something. I forget, but they were telling us in one vector via TV, they were saying you need to wear a mask and do this and that, and then there was footage of that same person not wearing a mask being somewhere where they shouldn't have been without a mask. In England, we found number 10. They were just having parties and stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But see this, but since you brought it up, the cavalier attitude that the leaders had, and Boris Johnson specifically, because he was found out to have said it. He said, "Oh well, let it just run wild, the disease, right, as it were, because irrespective of whether or not we believe that something was there to be afraid of, he said let it run wild." They had a good innings, the old people. They had a good innings. Now, if it was your grandfather or grandmother or granduncle or whatever that or your father even or mother that passed away during that time in Great Britain, you don't feel that way. You didn't have good innings. But it shows just how callous an attitude that is. Like complete disregard for any humanity. Well, they had good innings, they can die. What? Well, you might as well start having suicide booths at every street corner. When you hit the age of 75, just go in there, go into the suicide booth, off you go. This is the same as Soylent Green. Make Room is a novel that was turned into a movie only once, surprisingly. Soylent Green. I would have thought there'd be a remake by now. But what they find out is anybody can go and commit suicide, assisted suicide in this society, because overpopulation, right? And this one old guy, he goes, and then his death leads his partner, detective or private investigator, to find out the truth, that these old people, or any dead bodies really, they're processed into Soylent Green, which is this cracker that people eat. Right, so everybody's eating. There was Soylent Red, but no, it's new Soylent Green.
Woohoo!
And it's people. Soylent Green is people, and it's okay. It's okay. It's because in that society it's overpopulated. So are we okay now? Are we okay to have suicide booths at every street corner? Are we? Are we really? It's being discussed now in Australia. And look, there are good reasons why people should be allowed to opt out. I completely agree. I mean, some conditions are just too horrendous, and the pain is just too great, in my opinion. But again, I mean, it's an individual decision. But this can't be a blanket policy. We can't make the decision for like Boris Johnson said. Oh, they had a good innings. He made a blanket decision for the elderly population of the UK that it's okay for them to die. That's the decision. He didn't say it like that, but it might as well have said it like that.
That's right.
but we are slightly coming off course here. But you understand the world we're living in, and then we started talking about the escape, right? The pineal gland seems to be an organ in the body that connects us to the real world. It's when you go and play a video game. You got an avatar, and obviously you connect to that avatar with your a computer, video interface, whatever. But there's obviously a programming section of code that lets you control that world or enter that world, right? You can think of the pineal gland as that piece of code, if you will, that lets you interact with this world. And this pineal gland that we have, unless it's calcified.
Hello.
Yeah, I know, right? This is my tooth in the middle of my brain. We have an option to get out, because no matter how far we go on a spaceship, right, to the ends of the universe, doesn't matter, because it's still within this reality frame. Even if you travel interdimensionally, right, but still on the same level of dimensions as it were as we're here, right? 4, that is, 3 of space and 4 of duration. You're still not escaping. You're still not escaping. The only escape is if you escape into the higher dimensional realms, in my opinion, which are well beyond our understanding and which can be frightening. But people have explored, with or without the help of drugs, as it were, right? But so we're here now, right? We're here. We discussed the detoxification of the pineal gland and why it's important, and then we also we're discussing, well, how do you activate it? And spinal cord breathing, the ultimate practice for spiritual activation and awakening, is one of those. And bear in mind that Qigong, or the Qigong practice in China, is the single most prosecuted spiritual or religious group ever. The Qigong are the single most prosecuted people in China. Right? Why? Good question. Now, Qigong through the eyes of craniosacral science. To understand how profound these Qigong practices are and how they kindle a natural spiritual experience in pineal gland activation without the use of substances, herbs, or other less organic methods, let us look at what happens with the spinal cord breathing exercise we will be introducing further on in this article. As we practice spinal cord breathing, the rhythmic pulsing of the spinal cord creates an electromagnetic field that charges the cerebrospinal fluid and enhances the circulation of this important fluid throughout the body, resulting in pineal gland activation. Increased flow shifts the electrolyte balance, the means by which the CSF regulates the body's ability to conduct electricity. The greater the conductivity, the more energy can flow through the nervous system, charging the cells and priming them for activation. Any psychoactive substances, such as DMT, that are released by the activated pineal gland also enter into the CSF, charging it even further. In spinal cord breathing, the movement of the sacrum transfers vibration up the spine and to the occiput through the dural tube. Connected with the occiput are the sphenobasilar joint, SBJ. The sphenoid also begins to vibrate, stimulating the pituitary. At the same time, the rocking, wave-like movement of the pituitary stalk activates the hypothalamus and milks the pituitary gland, which, as we know, is connected to the health and activation of the pineal gland. The milking of the pituitary releases more oxytocin and vasopressin, which heighten feelings of trust, relaxation, peace, and empathy while reducing fear, anxiety, and aggression. Dave?
And that's when the masseuse says, here's the bill.
Yeah, that's right.
Of which you just appreciate. Thank you very much. The pituitary gland is located above the sphenoid sinus, which drains almost directly down the throat. During high levels of excitement, CSF may be excreted into the sphenoid sinus. Here, vasopressin and oxytocin mix with the already highly charged CSF and drip down into the throat, giving us the nectar, frequently referred to as soma. I'll put my eyes back in. That is often described in spiritual experiences. Both vasopressin and oxytocin are critical hormones during the birth process. Their presence in the nectar may contribute to birth-like experiences. The effects of these hormones on bonding may also explain the feeling of deep connection and unconditional love that is part of many enlightenment experiences. This potent brew travels down the back of the throat into the stomach, where it is absorbed directly through the mucous membranes. Some of this fluid also enters the bloodstream later in the digestive process. In this way, the nectar is brought to the lower dantian for integration into the physical body, uniting heaven and earth. During spiritual experiences, the activated pineal gland affects the rest of the brain through its influence on CSF, which completely immerses both the brain and the spinal cord. After bathing the brain, approximately half of the CSF gets reabsorbed into the bloodstream in the head. The other half leaves the head through lymphatic drainage. From the lymph to the supercharged CSF enters the body's bloodstream and is carried to the heart. Blood flows through the heart and vessels in the spiral motion. Gee, I don't know what's going on with me today. Boosting the CSF's electromagnetic charge. These neural, biochemical, and electromagnetic connections between the brain and heart may lead to ecstatic heart-mind expanding sensations. The heart field is the strongest electromagnetic field in the body. When consciousness moves from the head to the heart, the field becomes stronger and more organized. When the head resonates with the heart's vibration, neurons in the brain fire differently, reducing mind chatter, increasing the communication between mind and body, and inducing further pineal gland activation. Thus, during spiritual experiences, the liquid light, ambrosia, of CSF is active in all three dantians, enhancing their powers. Because the pineal gland is itself bathed in CSF, there can be a self-amplifying positive feedback loop that creates peak experiences. Moreover, since the heart field extends, it can be felt at least 10 feet from the body. Our experiences also have the potential for a ripple effect to our communities.
And wouldn't that be astounding? I mean, to experience and and this is really what we talked about when we talked about the awareness cascade. If people were able to do this, and enough people were able to do this, the field would just expand, even into non-practitioners. And CSF, of course, means cerebrospinal fluid.
So, Mickey,
light and music.
Wait. The collective experience that everyone would be emitting this and amplifying and resonating, I think, is really important to understand.
I see at the basis of the hypothesis was something I observed in nature, the critical mass. Mm-hmm. Right? When you reach critical mass, certain things happen. I mean, you could have a lump of uranium lying there forever and nothing happens. You add more uranium, nothing happens. You add more, nothing happens. Then you just put that last critical crumb of uranium on there and something happens. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think this was something that was obviously stopped in 2020. If we had reached critical mass, so this is the thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think everybody would have needed to be a guru level kind of practitioner, right? Uh-huh. But if enough people had attained that mind state, even enough peaceful at rest minds would have been good. But then you have people driving that, of course, from behind with their higher awareness and the ability to charge the system, as it were, right? Because again, we don't see these energy fields. We don't see telephone, conversations in the air. We have them, but we don't see them. We don't see TV waves in the air either, but there they are. Mm-hmm. And this is similar, where this would propagate through a population, in my opinion, and charge them, again, in my opinion, to the levels necessary to achieve ascension, which is the awareness cascade. All of a sudden, you go, holy moly, you feel like charged, and your vibrational rate increases, and you're able to ascend. Right? Because we as a species reach critical mass. That didn't happen. Because of what we discussed, obviously, right? And then now, I don't know when it can happen again, if it can happen again. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, it's all up to you now. Light the music.
Yeah. Light the music. Research by neurosurgeon Wilder Penfield reported in 1958 that stimulation of the right temporal lobe of the brain led to patients reporting spiritual experiences such as seeing God, leaving their bodies, hearing music, and seeing the dead. Since then, studies by Peter Fenwick and Vernon Knapp also show connections between mystical experiences and the temporal lobes. Although the exact mechanism by which the temporals are stimulated is not yet known, it may be that the CSF, the cerebrospinal fluid, present in the interpeduncular cistern situated between the temporal lobes may be involved. A structure called the colliculus helps to orient the head to what is seen or heard. It receives visual and auditory stimuli and has sensory motor connections to assist with orienting movement. It surrounds the pineal gland and is activated by its secretions. As the pineal awakens, releasing biochemicals such as serotonin, tryptamine, pinealine, melatonin, or DMT, it affects the colliculus, which can explain some of the lights, visions, and celestial music that people report when the third eye is open and the crystal palace is active. Dave?
Yes, that's correct. Wow. There we go. Awakening the core link between cranium and sacrum. Earlier, we mentioned the soft tissue dura matter connection between the cranium and the sacrum, the core link. For good flow in the physical body, there must be good connection and communication between heaven, the cranium, and the earth, the sacrum. Spinal cord breathing is one of the best ways to awaken this connection and keep it healthy, and also has the added effect of inducing pineal gland activation. Spinal cord breathing enlivens the spine, promotes good range of motion and flexibility, activates the cranial and the sacral pumps, and enhances the flow of cerebral spinal fluid, which in turn stimulates pineal gland activation. It also helps to relax the back muscles, so meditation is comfortable and increases the flow of qi through the spine. In modern life, many people work at a desk and sit for many hours a day. Additionally, many people also sit watching television or playing on the internet once they are home. So much sitting hinders the motion of the sacrum and reduces flow. Spinal cord breathing is a great way to counteract the ill effects of prolonged sitting. Mackie.
Spinal cord breathing. So this is how you do it, everybody, okay? So listen to this as many times as you want. So you stand with your feet shoulder width apart and your knees slightly bent. That's kind of the Tai Chi stance that you might know. Also, that's how you begin yoga. Okay, feet shoulder wide apart, knees slightly bent. Relax and begin to notice how you feel. Again, if you do yoga or martial arts, you should be familiar with this. And then begin natural breathing. Just breathe, right? On your next inhalation, keeping your elbows bent and your fingers toward the sky, bring your arms level with your shoulders and pull slightly back. Gently tilt your sacrum backward, arching your spine. Open your chest and allow the ribcage to expand, activating the thymus and adrenal glands. Allow your head to drop backward and allow your jaw to soften. As you exhale, tilt your sacrum forward, tucking your tailbone and rounding your spine as if curling into a ball. Bring your elbows together in front of your chest and let your chin drop towards your chest as you lightly clench your teeth. Repeat this 9 or 18 times and then return your head and spine to neutral and rest. This is actually similar to some of the yogic exercises you might do. That's all you have to do. That's it. Spinal cord breathing. That's it. Listen to the instructions again if you want, if you tape this. Now, the next bit is important. In fact, I don't think we'll be able to finish it. That's okay. The final thought that we had 7 years ago, in fact, now 10 years ago. The ultimate escape is only possible through complete understanding and cultivation of the pineal gland. That is the great work of the Buddhas and other enlightened or holy figures. Of course, we're not the first to realize this, right? This knowledge is thousands of years old and is being continuously suppressed, on occasion with deadly force. The closer we get to the truth, the more frightened they become. Now, who's they, right? The ominous they. The great adversaries in this instance. And in my mind, these might be the ones that have become institutionalized. Not necessarily the ones that got us here, but the ones of us that can no longer leave. Like the guy in the Matrix that prefers, in fact, to go back into the Matrix as a movie star, whatever. Because he cannot live in the real world. He can no longer. The prison is now the normality. If you watch Shawshank Redemption, there's a beautiful scene in there, not nice, but beautiful, where a prisoner was released, an old guy, and he had been in prison for 50 or 60 years, a long time, and he was released and he was given a job as a bag boy in a grocery store. Like, he was like 70 or 80 years old, right? He was given a room to live, and he tried to live in the outside world, but it had changed too much. It's too noisy, too fast. He couldn't find his way. So what happens is he takes out his pocket knife and carves his name into a crossbeam in his room and then hangs himself. Because he was so used to living in prison that even his bodily function wouldn't work unless someone told him, as it were, right? He was so institutionalized that he could no longer live in the world. And I think the ones that are keeping us here at this point, in my opinion, again, are those. Those are the ones that are keeping us, because they cannot bear to live in the real world. Now, obviously, those are also the ones that are in power and have all the benefits of living here in this illusion of a world, right? Keeping us ignorant of our true nature, knowing full well that if we were to leave, something would happen. And this is an epiphany that I had a long time ago, 7 years, I think it was, whatever it was, maybe actually probably more, 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, so this is how far we got 7 years ago. And then this is the next bit. There's more. The next part addresses the why. Why are we here? Right? So we know now that we're here and we know the mechanisms, how we're kept here, but why are we here? And in order to understand the why, we need to talk about a couple of abstract and seemingly unrelated things, at least as far as the hypothesis is concerned. We have to go quantum again. Let's go quantum! And Dave, why don't you...
I figured that was me. So quantum decoherence is the loss of quantum coherence. Just remember that. In quantum mechanics, particles such as electrons behave like waves and are described by a wave function. These waves can interfere with each other, leading to the peculiar behavior of quantum particles. As long as there exists a definite phase relation between different states, the system is said to be coherent. This coherence is a fundamental property of quantum mechanics and is necessary for the function of quantum computers. However, when a quantum system is not perfectly isolated but in contact with its surroundings, the coherence decays with time, a process called quantum decoherence. As a result of this process, the quantum behavior is lost. Decoherence was first introduced in 1970 by the German physicist H. Dieter Zeh and has been a subject of active research since the 1980s. So decoherence can be viewed as the loss of information from a system into the environment, often modeled as a heat bath. Since every system is loosely coupled with the energetic state of its surroundings, viewed in isolation, the system's dynamics are non-unitary, although the combined system plus environment involves a unitary fashion. Thus, the dynamics of the system alone are irreversible. As with any coupling, entanglements are generated between the system and environment. These have the effect of sharing quantum information with, or transferring it to, the surroundings. So decoherence has been used to understand the collapse of the wave function. In quantum mechanics, for instance, the double slit experiment is a perfect example of that. So decoherence does not generate actual wave function collapse. It provides an explanation for the observation of a wave function collapse as the quantum nature of the system leaks into the environments. That is, components of the wave function are decoupled from a coherent system and acquire phases from their immediate surroundings, a total superposition of the global or universal wave function that still exists and remains coherent at the global level, but its ultimate fate remains an interpretational issue. So specifically, decoherence does not attempt to explain the measurement problem. Mackie.
Rather, decoherence provides an explanation for the transition of the system to a mixture of states that seem to correspond to those states observers perceive. Moreover, our observation tells us that this mixture looks like a proper quantum ensemble in a measurement situation. As we observe, the measurements lead to the realization of precisely one state in the ensemble. One state. Decoherence represents a challenge for the practical realization of quantum computers, since such machines are expected to rely heavily on the undisturbed evolution of quantum coherences. Simply put, they require that coherent states be preserved and that decoherence is managed in order to actually perform quantum computation.
Yes.
Decoherence does not... Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Decoherence does not claim to provide a mechanism for the actual wave function collapse. Okay, this is important. Rather, it puts forth a reasonable mechanism for the appearance of wave function collapse. The quantum nature of the system is simply leaked into the environment so that total superposition of the wave function still exists, but exists, at least for all practical purposes, beyond the realm of measurement. So let's just unpack this for a second, then I'll finish it. What they're saying here is this. When the wave function collapses, right, from all possibilities into the one that we then observe and live, the overall superposition still exists. We just can no longer measure it, which of course gives rise to Everett's many worlds theory, right? Because I mean, if all the other points on the superposition still exist, where are they? Well, somewhere else. Somewhere else, but not for us to measure. Not for us to measure. They still exist.
If I asked you where did they go, I can't measure that.
No, but they're still there. At least we think they're still there. So yeah, no, I know. It gets a bit mind-bendy, right? So decoherence does not claim to provide a mechanism for the actual wave function collapse. Rather, it puts forth a reasonable mechanism for the appearance of the wave function collapse, as I said, right? They, at least for all practical purposes, they still exist, but beyond the realm of measurement. Of course, by definition, the claim that emerged but unmeasurable wave functions still exist cannot be proven experimentally. Decoherence explains why a quantum system begins to obey classical probability rules after interacting with its environment, due to the suppression of the interference terms when applying Born's probability rules to the system. But it doesn't tell us anything about the overall or global wave function. Okay. Observer effect, Dave?
In physics, the term observer effect refers to changes that the act of observation will make on a phenomenon being observed. This is often the result of instruments that by necessity alter the state of what they measure in some manner. So I'm going to give you a quick one. If you put a thermometer into a liquid and the thermometer wasn't already the temperature of the liquid, then you can alter the temperature of the liquid just by trying to measure it with a thermometer. Does it make sense? So, a commonplace example is checking the pressure in an automobile tire. This is difficult to do without letting out some of the air, thus changing the pressure. Furthermore, it is not possible to see any object without light hitting the object and causing it to emit or reflect light. While this may seem negligible, the object still experiences a change. That's so true, because it's receiving energy. This effect can be observed in many domains of physics and can often be reduced to insignificance by using better instruments or observation techniques. Oh, here we go. In quantum mechanics, there's a common misconception that it is the mind of the conscious observer that causes the observer effect in quantum processes. It is rooted in a misunderstanding of the quantum wave function and the quantum measurement process. Unless it's the double slit experiment, and Meki and I are under the impression that that statement that I just read out is false.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is very much, in fact, many physicists have now come around and become quite religious.
About this same thing.
Oh yeah, and we discussed this as well, which is really interesting. Again, I'm not a religious type myself, but what it does say in the Bible is, in the beginning was the Word, right? Now that word is also can also be translated as thought in the original, from the original language.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be word, it can be thought. So in the beginning was the thought. So the ultimate, or the fundamental building block of existence might be thought, right? And that's when it gets real slippery real quick, because all of a sudden we have agency in the creation of reality. Our thoughts can meaningfully alter reality. That's a really scary thing to contemplate, and quite insane if you're, I guess, if you're a regular person with a regular mind, I guess, you don't engage in speculative thought. It's complete nonsense too. You think, how could my mind possibly, or my thought for that matter, affect reality? Now the truth is this: you affect reality every day through your mind, because your body puts into motion whatever your mind thinks up. Okay, so you do affect physical reality through your thoughts. Right? Now you can take this a step further and saying, well, you don't really need the body to interact with the universe, do you? Do you? You don't. Why would you? Why can't you directly interact with the universe through your thoughts? There's really no reason why you can't, unless of course you say, oh well, thought is just really a whole bunch of biological and chemical processing. That's all it is. Okay, that's okay. I dig it. That's where you live. But what if it isn't? Right? And this is where it gets really, 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 really murky. And it's really hard to separate what we think we know from what we know we don't know. Right? And that line is really blurred because there's a lot of things we don't know. I think we've got enough time between to talk about uncertainty and observer effect. In particle physics, the observer effect in general use refers to any effect caused by the act of observation. When Heisenberg came up with the uncertainty principle, although the mathematics of the theory was accurate, his reasoning behind it was not. Heisenberg's idea was the position and velocity momentum of a particle cannot be measured accurately at the same time, because the very act of measurement of position causes a change in the particle's momentum, because of the interaction between the measuring photon, any detecting particle, and the particle itself. But it was later found that the uncertainty was in fact not a result of measurement, but an inherent property of the universe. I.e., when you take the wave nature of a particle, if the position is well defined, the wavelength momentum isn't. And if you can measure the wavelength accurately, the position isn't well defined. So with regards to the general use of the term, there is no real connection between the uncertainty principle and the observer effect, the former being a law of the universe irrespective of measurement. In physics, the term observer effect is more famously used to describe the collapse of a wave function upon the act of measurement, which is a true account of quantum behavior. You can say that the act of measurement has localized the position of the particle. Okay? The observation, the act of measurement, has localized the position of the particle. As soon as we measure something, it falls into place. You don't measure it, it doesn't. It does not. It does not. Then we've got old friend, the double slit experiment. I don't know if you've got time for all of this.
No, I don't think so. I think we'll handle that one next week.
Yeah, but look, the critical thing here is that the latest breakthroughs in science seem to point at us being the ultimate arbiters of reality. Now, a lot of people will poo-poo this and go, that's nonsense, Mackie, you don't know what you're talking about, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get it. I dig it. But you know what? There are many examples. None of these can be empirically measured, unfortunately, because it just doesn't work that way. Where positive thought and prayer and direct thought and even the death prayers. I don't know if you heard about this, where people pray for someone to die and they die.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why would that even be possible? Or they convince themselves that they should die because someone has prayed them to death. Well, that's a bit cavalier. It's also spurious because you can't have it both ways, right? I mean, this is clearly something that happens.
Placebo effect to make you
believe
shush.
That's right. But then you go on, it's just nothing. It's nothing. Placebo.
Yep.
I hate it.
One word. That's a trigger word for Mackie.
It's
I know,
true.
it does it to me every time.
Right?
Because can't talk about that anymore. Nope.
No, that's right. Well, that's right. Yeah.
Look, Mackie, we called it something.
Exactly. There it is. Placebo. It's what it is. But what is it? Placebo. No. What is it? Placebo. You stupid.
So tell me why 68% of the people who took the medication that took the sugar tablet got better anyway.
Placebo. So now the thing is this, right? Because, and this is where it falls apart for me. Science, that is. I have medical treatment or protocol or medication that I'm testing on a population, like a test group. Here it is, to see the effectiveness. Okay, fair enough. I get it. That makes perfect sense. But I don't know how effective it is if I don't have a control group. So I need a control group, right? And I don't give that control group the medicine. I don't. But they think they're getting it.
Yeah, they're not told that they're the control group, yeah.
That's right, yes. It's double blind, meaning neither the experimenter nor the subject knows what group they're part of.
That's right.
And that's important in order to avoid bias. Right, double blind. Oddly, people that received the sugar pill, whatever, or whatever, they also get better.
And sometimes it can be higher than the medications group.
Yeah, so the question becomes, how? Now, scientists have called this the placebo effect, meaning really nothing. It means nothing.
That's right.
it's just an elegant way of saying, well, I don't know what's going on, but I called it something, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. This, in my mind, is what we should be investigating. This is what we should research. How in Earth, in heaven, and all the things in between, how did these people get better?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, what happened is they healed themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
Or if didn't heal themselves, then some other outside agency they somehow got hold of healed them, or what, I don't know what it is, right? And sometimes people get better when they're preyed on. And Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, he managed to make people better and see things more clearly. How do you explain this? Oh, it's placebo. It means nothing. But I've spoken to many doctors now, many scientists, right?
Yep.
In my friends and family circle as well, and that's what they say. Oh, it's placebo. Isn't that what you should look at?
Let's try and expand upon that. Placebos? Anyway, guess what? That's the end of another Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mackie. We'll catch you on Tuesday and Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, for breakfast with Plato's Cave. In the meantime, until then, stay safe.